Okay. Let's do a little playing around, right? Turn down the volume on this thing. So imagine somebody wandering into the northern wastelands. And they are desperate for food, shelter, anything really that they need to survive. There's not a tree in sight. It's deep in winter. Everything's just a desert of ice. Imagine the despair when they die, cold and alone. But something in the land does not allow them to stop. It's so cold, even death is frozen. When they come alive again, against their will, what hunger would they have for warmth? Let's talk about Ironsworn. So I started playing Ironsworn. It is a solo RPG. It is me, myself, and I, right? There's just me playing. And when I'm playing, I am doing this in front of chat, of course. And we're kind of running through the adventures right now of Ezzi Fanirr. Actually, there we go. I'll just put this up real quick. Shrink that down. So this is Ezzi Fanirr, and these are her stats. Ironsworn makes itself so that fiction comes first. So I rolled up a world, I rolled up a character, and I played a game last Friday. And I said, you know what? I want to do this every Friday to kind of push the narrative of this character, Ezzi Fanirr. And I played it wrong last Friday. I played it wrong. But I'm a little bit older and wiser, and I know the rules a little bit better. So I thought I would catch you up. Okay. First, let's talk about Normount. In the beginning of Ironsworn, you come up with a set of your truths about the world of Ironsworn. You are in the Iron Lands. In this case, I have named the Iron Lands Normount, the Northern Mountains. You decide how your people got there, how long they've been there, what did they find there, etc., etc., etc. So here's the truths of Normount. The Old World. The Old World was Kazursprig, of which all the humans found plenty of temperate weather, plenty of farmland, and they ignored the northern lands of Normount because it was a harsh land up there, and it is relatively unexplored. But a massive army invaded Kazursprig, an army of people known as the Skuld. These are fairly savage, evil dwarves that outwitted, out-technicianed, and just destroyed all the humans in Kazursprig, driving the remainders far north into the Iron Lands. So when we arrived, there was no Skuld for us to be bothered by. So we decided to make these lands our own. Iron. There are strange iron pillars, stronger than any metal we've seen, that are peppering the lands of Normount. They are 30 feet wide and 90 feet tall and stuck into the ground, smooth as river stones, and unmarrable by any of our weapons. We have only bronze, and so coming to this new land we find iron. How novel. Legacy. This is the second generation. Ezzi is part of the second generation to live their full lives in the Ironlands. Before this, there seemed to be no other human population. Community. After landing on the shores of Normount, all the humans split up, wary of each other, untrustful of each other's groups. It wasn't certain how the Skuld had destroyed humans so quickly and effectively, but it was believed that some betrayal was involved. And so, communities stick to their own and form very tight-knit families with each other. Leaders. As the communities are small and tightly knit, they are also varied in the way that they run each other. So, what is true for one community's ways could be different from another community's ways, although they do hold strong from the old world still, as the memory is pretty solid. Defense. The old ways from the old lands had wardens who watched over the peace. So it is accepted amongst all Ironlanders that there will be wardens, lawmen, who are split into two levels of authority, the sheriffs and the deputies. Before, they showed who they were with bronze badges held together with leather. But in these new Ironlands, since iron is such a mystical thing, they use iron badges instead. Though the laws may differ depending on the community, there are three major laws that are true throughout the entire Ironlanders. 1. Do not kill other humans. Only the lawmen may do that. 2. Do not steal the property of others. Self-explanatory. And 3. Do not commune with the Skuld, our enemy. Mystics. Magic is not unheard of. It is not shooty pew pew fireball type of magic. No, this is ritual. Maybe 1 in 100 people will be born with mystic powers, and all of them born in the winter. Nobody knows why. Communities protect their mystics. The village witch is a valuable asset to the community. Because, that particular access to magic, that could give us an upper hand over the other communities, which could be cavorting with the Skuld. Religion. Humans believe that the gods abandoned them in the old world. Kazasprigg is lost and the gods were nowhere to help. So, the humans have abandoned the gods. Normount is a godless land. There are habits left over from old religions, but they are habits and not true worship. Firstborn. There are traces left over of the firstborns, the ones that existed before the humans came. But there are no firstborn to be seen, and the civilization has yet to be found. But every so often we find things. The pillars themselves seem to be proof enough that there were people before humans in this land. Beasts. These are not animals. Beasts are savage, brutal, and sometimes unnatural. And fortunately, they stay mainly in the northern mountains. Past the Tempest Hills, most people don't go that far north. So, when one does come down south to wreak havoc or find food, it's quite an event, and even communities will band together to fight the odd wyvern or so. Horrors. The horrors come out at night. They seek the living. They seek it with envy and jealousy. When the sun sets, there is a 2 in 6 chance a horror will arrive to stalk the living. People are safe in their communities. There is safety in numbers. But if camping alone, away from civilization, there is every chance that a horror will come. Time. This actually isn't in the Ironlands books, or the Ironsworn book, but I put it in here because time is kind of important to me when I keep track of my games. The time is measured in KL, Kaimar's Landing. Everything starts from the first human that landed in this lands, called Kaimar, who led everyone, like a shepherd, away from Kazusprig to find any kind of civilization or hope of survival in the northern wastes. So, by the time that Ezzi Fanirr is born, the year is 25. Alright, you're caught up on the world. Let's talk about Ezzi Fanirr. Ezzi Fanirr was born to a deputy. Right now I don't have a name for him. It is just Ezzi's father. Ezzi Fanirr's father, though a deputy, was accused of and executed for communing with the Skald. Ezzi, with her witchy powers, knows that this is not true, but he was tried and executed by the sheriff. As such, this happening at a very early age, Ezzi grew up being raised by the village. She does not hate the village, but she takes it as a mark against her pride that her father, and by association, she, is suspect of dealing with the Skald, even though we're in a land where the Skald do not show. So, she has taken an iron vow to prove her and her father's innocence in the eyes of the village. Now, keep in mind, destroying the village is not an answer. In fact, if the village were to be destroyed, Ezzi would completely lose her mind, because it would have been a vow unfulfilled to prove the innocence of her father. This is an epic quest that will continue on in the background of all of Ezzi's stories. But I'm making a note here that's altering the rules slightly for Ironsworn. When Ezzi made this vow upon a piece of iron, she made it on her father's badge, which, in show of how important it was, she threw into the fire while she was scrying. Unbeknownst to her, she has gotten the attention of Normount itself, and the land has plans for Ezzi Fanirr. It has a cursed plan that she will eventually become a force of terror. She will be a witch of the north. She does not know this. No one knows this, but we know this. All right. So, the first adventure is known as the Adventure of Mountain Hammer. And it began as such. I won't tell you how the rolls went, I'll just give you a quick summary of the story. Alright, it's spring of 42 KL, and doom is coming towards Timberwall. Timberwall is the village that Ezzi has grown up in. She loves Timberwall, she doesn't want doom to come. Ezzi, while scrying in the fires at midnight, sees a vision of a great avalanche See, Timberwall, even though protected by the trees of the hinterlands, which is mostly pines and forestry, Timberwall does border south of two large peaks from the Tempest Hills. Unusual because they are very big hills. And she sees the snow crumbling from the top of the hills and rolling into a wave of destruction that will not only destroy the forest that Timberwall is in, but Timberwall itself, and everyone will die. She rushes that night to the village elder, Sedan, and he doesn't listen to her. He doesn't believe her. It's not entirely that he doesn't trust her. She is the village mystic. It is more that that's not ever happened or even shown signs of happening in the last 25 years that they've been doing this. Or I guess 42, right? So he needs proof before he will actually make a move to evacuate the village. How do you prove an avalanche? Still, Sedan, just in case, does hold a meeting the next morning, and the meeting is small and unconvincing. Most people are like, well, she probably had a bad nightmare. So Ezzi decides, I'm going to go north and cause a small avalanche. Nothing big, but enough to scare the village into evacuating before the real one comes. Is this a smart idea? Nah, but she's 17 at this time, so we can forgive some idiocy. I believe that stupidity is a prerogative of the young. So Ezzi realizes that she is not a fighter. She has an edge of one and an iron one. She does not fight good. So she enlists the help of Cadogan, the hunter's son. Cadogan is fairly strong in combat, but he doesn't know much about avalanches, but he knows that Ezzi seems very sincere, and she is clearly worried about the safety of the village. So Cadogan and Ezzi head north into the Tempest Hills to look for either the cause of the avalanche or to cause an avalanche. Most of the time, and I'm going to speed up a little bit here, most of the time that they spend there, Ezzi and Cadogan are looking for some small hill where, say, if they fell a tree with Cadogan's axe, then that would cause a little bit of movement of snow that would slide towards the village. They never find this hill. They don't find this hill. But in that time, when they camp, a Frostborn, basically a frozen zombie, comes stalking for their warmth. Ezzi doesn't want to deal with it. So Ezzi grabs Cadogan, puts out the fire, and then they hide in the snow. Since Ezzi knows about the Frostborn, she knows that Frostborn seek out heat. So hidden under the snow, the Frostborn looks around for what could have had the warmth, and decides to go and chase a squirrel instead. It leaves. Another time, Cadogan, marching through the snow as Ezzi is in front of him trying to find any location, they both get lost. Cadogan slips into the snow, into some crevice that must lead into a cavern underground. But he does not fall down there and get hurt, because Ezzi quickly dives into the snow after him. And in his desperation, as he's crawling up Ezzi, who is barely rooted to solid ground under the snow, he does twist her arm, hurting her. Something that he feels fairly bad about. But Ezzi says, hey, he's alive, and she needs him alive. Eventually, still lost, they see a strange structure off into the distance. Ezzi, at the top of one hill, in order to get her bearings, sees something? Some kind of construction. It is not natural. It has strange, straight lines. It looks like a giant hammer. but that's stupid. So she gets in close and realizes that a single-skulled dwarf, or what she assumes to be one because she's never seen one before, is constructing a machine that will shake the mountain like an earthquake, dropping snow from both bordering peaks that will slide in and destroy the town. The avalanche was not natural in her vision. It was apparently sabotage by the Skuld, which raises many questions. She and Cadogan sneak up, without being seen, to the Skuld and gank him. Ezzi gets a little bit hurt as she tries to dive in and help, but she is terrible in combat. It is Cadogan who finally drives his knife into the back of the Skuld dwarf, killing him, and they look around and see that there is payment in the form of iron coins. Gold is nice, iron is better. So they just kind of shrug as they look at each other and take the coins. Payment for services rendered. But they also take the head of the Skuld, drain it out, and travel back to the village. This is their proof that, yes, Ezzi was telling the truth. And so the town is saved, and Ezzi and Cadogan sharing a mead with each other. Cadogan realizes that Ezzi has saved his life twice, and so they form a bond together. And that is the end of the first story. So, I think every Friday, starting at 7 o'clock Central Time, on my Twitch channel, I think I'm going to play this. I'm going to play Ironsworn, and I want to do at least 2 more adventures with Ezzi with the base book, and then I'm going to buy the add-on, which is just called Delve, which has to do with underground stuff. And then I'm going to do 3 of those, and we'll see what happens with Ezzi. She will not die. There are rules in the book that it's very possible when she faces death, she will die. And okay, she might die, but not for long, because the land has plans for her. And I think that death and madness and dissolution, losing control of the character, isn't fun. So she's doomed to collect scars. This is, I don't know, it'll probably start off as a classic Nordic adventure, but I suspect it's gonna go wrong for poor Ezzi in the future. We'll find out. As Ezzi has already seen, the future sight does not actually dictate what will happen. Fate doesn't really have a hold over her, but the land has a plan for her. So we'll see. We'll see. In any case, you are now caught up on the adventures of Ezzi Fanirr in Normount. And, yeah, we'll see where this goes.